Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 578 on Tuesday, the 14th of May, 2024. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week we'll be seeing how disruption is not easy across the breadth of the car industry. In new car news, we try to think of a new name for the segment, as there are no cars this week. And in points of interest, the lunchtime read gives a different perspective on one car we talked about last week. But first, we have a number of follow-ups, and I'm going to start with the sponsor of all the sporting activities of the last couple of years, who pretended that they were doing car dealership online, and that is CAZOO. They have announced that they are putting parts of their business into receivership to protect them from creditors' debt enforcement, which gave them about 10 days from last week, partway through last week, moving forward before people could then get in touch with the administrators and say, right, pay us the money we are owed.
There is a one-word description of the situation that CAZOO is in.
Yes, but I don't want to have to edit quite so early in the show.
Yes, exactly. I mean, basically, CAZOO are.
Yes, they are in deep trouble. But also, this is on the back of them warning investors that they will go bust if they fail to urgently raise capital. They expect them, unfortunately, to go wahoonie-shaped. Again, as we say with all these things, we feel incredibly sorry for all the staff members who are affected by decisions made by senior management.
Yeah, there's a quote in this online article saying, in 2021, one city fund manager said, CAZOO is a bubble, pure and simple, possibly one of the biggest ever, and when it pops, a lot of people are going to feel it. Don't expect there to be a follow-up to CAZOO for a while.
No. Anyway, do you want to take us to the US? And hopefully the last time we talk about Tesla for quite some time.
I'm not in the US. I've managed to escape it briefly. Not by very far, but the NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in the US, has written to Tesla, if there's anyone still at Tesla to receive the letter, about the software recall that there was to fit Autopilot software last year. What they've done is they've opened a recall query to investigate whether or not the recall was actually effective. So that's the one that took place in December. It affected more than 2 million Teslas after an investigation by NHTSA into nearly 1,000 accidents where Autopilot was, as it points out here, alleged to have been in use. So this is a formal communication, not just a, hey, I'm just going to write you a nice letter.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the vehicles are still doing what the recall was meant to stop them doing.
Yeah, part of that recall was all about the driver monitoring system and how some people could engage the Autopilot and not be as involved in the whole situation as they should be, because it is driver assistance only. And it appears that there have been something in the region of 20 vehicle incidents since the recall where, like Alan has said here, the NHTSA want clarification on what was activated, engaged, and if it was on Autopilot, was the driver monitoring system engaged as well or not? Because there are some serious questions which will be linked in the show notes to the Register article, which you should read. Some serious questions about specific elements of how it has been enabled for the driver monitoring system and how it can be switched off and stuff.
Yeah. In other Tesla news, there is now, we have to be very careful on this, so keep me on the straight and narrow, Andrew.
Yes.
US prosecutors are examining whether Tesla has misled investors about the self-driving capabilities of its vehicles.
Yes. But they are doing this through securities and wire fraud. That is the angle they are taking.
I think that the investigation is going to be are they trying to mislead people to elicit money from people? Or are they sharing an optimism of where they intend to be and what do they intend to do, which is corporate optimism, and that's allowed.
Yes.
It kind of comes down to whether you're promising stuff is doing stuff now, so it gives you money, or if you're being optimistic and believe that you're going to be able to do stuff that you're promising.
That's quite right. Yep, that's absolutely right.
As I'm sure you can appreciate from how careful I've had to be about my explanation, that can be quite a fuzzy line.
It does appear so, even though us muggles may think it's quite simple and obvious. But when you start involving very expensive lawyers, then the waters become very muddy.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to continue with the follow-up, and this is more JLR insurance news. Now, this story just will not go away. But this time we are finding out that JLR are putting forward contributions monthly in the region of £150 to anyone who is prepared to sign up for 3 years and use their own bespoke insurance service. If we remember, JLR did announce this recently because customers were finding it difficult to impossible to get their vehicles insured, even though the latest vehicles, which I think is post 2021Y, something like that.
I think so.
It might be early 21 or late 21. I can't remember which model one it was. But the 21 models onwards have got the latest software which helps prevent the problems JLR have had in the past, which enabled naughty people to be able to get into the computer system, get in the cars and take them away. And if we remember from a previous story, another one, that they have also backdated that up to 2017, or from 21 to 2017. Those models are being protected, and that is part of what is now a £15 million update, and that's 450,000 vehicles which will get a free update on this to improve their security. However, the JLR insurance has, apparently according to this article in AM Online, delivered more than 37,500 quotes to clients, which an average quote premium of less than 180 per month. Now, JLR are giving 150 to you. If your quote is around 180 a month, that seems like quite a good deal.
Yes.
For 3 years. At 30-ish quid. I mean, I would be really looking at the small print at that point, I have to say.
But is it 30-ish quid a month? I don't think it is 30-ish quid a month. I think that...
If they're giving a contribution of 150 and the premium average is 180, the difference is...
But I didn't know if that 180 was after the 150's already been subtracted.
They're just saying the average quote premium of less than 180 a month.
It's a little bit unclear.
So that's before that's announced.
Still, £180 a month in car insurance, folks.
Only just announced the 150 contribution. And those 37,500 average out at 180 per month.
Okay. 180 by 12 is still a lot in my mind.
Oh, yeah. It makes me weep. Like I said at the start of this, I am unsure why this story won't go away. If JLR's stats and figures are correct, as in how secure their vehicle is now, then why are not normal insurers doing more or welcoming these cars in? Because they're not, according to what you see online and other articles that quote people's experiences. Is this the insurance industry is just out there stitching everyone up at the moment?
Well, that's not an unreasonable opinion.
Is it that they are yet to be convinced? Is it yet they need more data to be convinced? Is it that they have just gone, no, we've had enough of this, the problems in the past, we've taken too many hits, so we just refuse to cover JLR products now for quite some time? Is it a combination of all? I don't know, and I don't know of any experts whose brains I can pick to find this out, but I find it strange this is coming back again.
So if you're an expert who would like your brains picked, there's a man who's happy to pick them.
Yeah, whilst I wait for people to give me their brains to be picked, why don't you take us to Japan?
So Japan, and a story rounding itself out now, as Daihatsu has resumed production at all 4 of the production plants that it closed or shuttered 4 months ago, to deal with some of the safety issues that were coming out.
Safety issues? You mean the fraud?
Well, yes. I'm sorry, we spend so much of our time dealing with safety issues and definitely trying not to say the words fraud. That it's awfully difficult.
It's all right. It's in this Japan Times article, so I feel we can say it.
Yes, yeah. Well, I sadly no plans to go to Japan soon and get arrested anyway. What they have done to sort this, the new prevention methods include an extension of product development periods and an increase in safety test personnel. We're going to do more over a longer period of time and just not rush stuff through was the message and the understanding I've come to from this.
Yes, amazing. When so many other car manufacturers say they're going to speed up stuff. I think there is a lesson for everyone to learn before it bites them there.
I think so. But that's good that it's rounded out. Story has ended.
Yep.
Tick in a box.
Yes, one of the rare times for us.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, as we said last week, we were not covering the new car registration figures because they only came out on the morning of us recording, and we needed time to actually read them and understand them and pick beneath the words that are used.
Yes, it's one of the fun challenges of the difference in time zones between us is actually being able to be awake. New car registrations. It's the 21st month of growth. Growth is a rounding error in this case. It's 1% over last year's April figures in total. Battery electric vehicle market share rises by 16.9%, but there's not really a lot else that's on the up, to be honest. So the headline figures sound nice.
Just to be clear, because a lot of people said this last week, that 16.9% is just for April 2024. That's not year to date or anything like this. People were bandying that larger number than has happened as though it was how the market was sitting.
That's funny because I was reading that out and I thought, but that's the market share.
Yeah.
In April 2024 is 16.9%. In April 2023, it was 15.4%. So it's really gone up 1.5%.
By the way, this is not a let's bash EVs. They are still increasing, but I think it's very important to be very clear when we talk about the differences between overall numbers and percentages and when.
Absolutely. Let's keep on that topic for a second then, because the BEV percentage is actually up 10.7%. So it was 22,717 vehicles registered instead of 20,522 vehicles registered.
Mm-hmm.
Plug-in hybrids actually up 22%. I think there are more on the market, more available right at the minute than there maybe were last year. Well, that's the vibe I get. I don't have any quantitative data to back that up. Hybrid electric vehicles up 16.7% as well. Petrol and diesel down 25%. It now has a market share of only 6.4%, and petrol down 3.1%. Worth noting, by the way, SMMT have changed how they count their figures. For a long time, they were including mild hybrids, got sort of lumped in with the hybrids and stuff, or had their own thing. Mild hybrids are now counted along with petrol and diesel figures, and yet there are still not great numbers there.
Congratulations to Tristan Young and his campaign to be very clear with the fuel what you put in the vehicle to make it go chart. And that has actually made it through, and SMMT are now agreeing that that is actually a sensible and correct way to calculate.
That is the better way to do it. When it comes down to who's buying stuff, private down 17.7%, business down 16.1%. All of this is being sustained by fleets right at the moment. Now, it's harder to tell with salary sacrifice in some of these schemes. It's much harder to tell what's a fleet and what's a private.
No, it's not. Salary sacrifice is in fleet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's harder to say.
But the numbers for salary sacrifice are incredibly small.
Right.
They are increasing, but they are still small.
Okay.
But also where companies can, if they choose to, hide some pre-regging, shall we say.
Should that be happening at all with any manufacturers? And we're not saying it is.
Yes. Should any decide that that is the way forward and make a business decision to do that? God, we are being really careful this week.
We are. We have to be so careful. Oh, the top models list?
Mm-hmm.
It's the small changes that we bring about over 8 years. Top models list. In number 10, the Volkswagen Tiguan, 2,004 of those registered. Number 9, the Volvo XC40. Number 8, the MG HS. Number 7, the Volkswagen Touareg, 2,162. Not really massive numbers here. Kia Sportage, 6, Volkswagen Golf at 5, Nissan Qashqai at 4, and we're still not reached 2,500 registrations.
Oh.
Audi A3 comes in a bit ahead at 3,010, Volkswagen Polo 3,413, and the Ford Puma, gosh, a lot of those registered, at 4,339. A fair jump there between everything else and the Ford Puma. That means Puma, Qashqai, Sportage at top of the year-to-date figures, 19,393, 17,050 and 15,824.
Mm-hmm. Right, let's go to the spreadsheet of doom, and I'll run through the dooms very quickly. Our Bath is down 53%. With the doomy side of this, a lot of the companies I'm going to discuss are actually quite small numbers. The Arbath last year was 57 registered, this year it's 27. It sounds, if you just stick with the percentage, it sounds even worse than it really is. Bentley down 32%, Dacia down 20%, DS down 74%. Now that one is quite a chunk though, even though it is small. 257 cars last year, 69 this year. Ford down 21%, that is quite a drop for them.
Mm-hmm.
Honda down 34%, Ineos down 72%.
It'll have been all the press fleet last year.
Yes, yeah. Maserati is down 36%, Mazda is down 31%. Mini, this is a drop, 35%, 3,558 2023, 2,307 this year.
Model transitions, I imagine.
Yeah, I think so. It's the new models just about to come. The new models are about to come out, and don't forget, Mini lumps anything that's called Mini into the one rather than split them out. Peugeot is down 22%. Polestar is down 60%. Porsche is down 24%. Then we get to Tesla, who had a bit of a rough month. They're down 25%. Vauxhall is down 44%. That is a huge drop, actually. 7,845 in 2023 to 4,386 in 2024. And then other British is down 33%. Interesting, actually. Just now I've gone through that. How many of those are Stellantis?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
No, there's some good Stellantis numbers coming in a minute as well, but yes,
Okay.
quite a few of those are Stellantis.
All right.
And there were some other Stellantises that are down not within the threshold.
Yeah, it's just, it reminds me of something that we were talking about last week with Tavares and how he's not prepared to sell a vehicle at a loss. Anyway, sorry, do you want to tell us the good stuff?
So the good stuff, Alpine up 40%, BMW up 35%, BYD up 1,048%.
MG award winners.
Yes, GWM Aura up 700%. Jaguar up 92%. Jeep up 200%. Lexus up 48%. Mercedes up 28%. Nissan up 18%. Renault up 77%. Seat up 84%. Smart up 675%. Again, if you've got product to sell, it's much easier in some cases. Ditto Subaru up 75%. Volvo up 30%, and other imports up 85.5%.
Yeah. Interestingly, once again, SMMT, via their chief executive, Mike Hawes, discusses how the government really needs to, or requests that the government steps in and helps out the industry by providing incentives for private buyers. So again, they repeat that, can they temporarily cut VAT, treating EVs or taking the luxury vehicle tax off EVs, and helping drive the charge point network expansion even further, which will help counter some of the apparent reasons why people are not, or private buyers are not purchasing cars. Again, totally forgetting there is still a cost of living crisis going on. some banks in the last couple of weeks have stuck their mortgages up again because the Bank of England didn't cut its interest rates. These news items that we're out of recession and all these other things, it's not affecting anyone on the ground, and people are still struggling financially, which these incentives to give money off certain bits of cars does nothing to encourage the car manufacturers to produce cheaper EVs in particular. And that's not going to change anytime soon. There will be links in the show notes to a Guardian article that goes further into this. And also, interestingly, and one I wanted to include because I saw this last week, fleet buyers are, it appears, being given quotas for electric vehicles if they are ordering ICE vehicles. This is in a Fleet News article, and this is stating that if a company comes up, such as, well, they use an example here of the National Grid, goes up and says, oh, we want to buy X number of ICE vehicles, and this includes vans as well, by the way, not just cars, then whoever they are approaching is saying, right, if you want that, then you have to buy 10, 15, whatever percentage of electric vehicles. And the thing is, that's not always appropriate.
No.
For all use cases. There are still limitations with EVs, particularly when it comes to business use, particularly when it comes to vans, that it is not an EV car with boxes in it. It is a different beast. It is used differently. The process is different. Everything is different.
Especially if it's in the sort of construction industry and stuff. That kind of use case is very, very hard.
But I find this interesting that the car industry, on the surface level, looks like it is putting pressure on the one segment that is increasing its purchasing by saying, no, we're going to dictate what you can have. I think that's, I mean, I know the car industry will go, well, no, the government have forced our hands. What are we meant to do? But wow, it's this is going to continue to be very messy, I feel.
Yeah, it's the same with ramping up pricing on ICE vehicles, as in saying, oh, well, we're doing it so that you'll buy electric. So, it's actually, not do that.
Yep.
There are other ways to do this. And I don't think that's very good or ethical.
Yeah, you could throttle by actually throttling, as in not allowing more of those products. But there's lots being said about this at the moment, and we'll be following it closely. So if anything significant comes up, we will bring it to your attention.
Yeah. Next, JLR. I've almost got lots of good JLR news this week, apart from the first bit.
Well, no, it was good news.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Best profit since 2015. Defender and Range Rover sales are well up. Firm generated £29 billion in revenue last year, sold more than 400,000 cars, so congratulations. With an operating margin of 9.2%. That's 2.7% higher than the previous financial year. It's saying that increased sales volumes, reduced material costs as well were part of this. Yes. And they were partially offset by a ramp up in marketing spend, because there's no point in marketing when you don't have anything to sell.
Yep.
And more than a quarter of the 401,303 cars were Defenders. 2 Range Rover models accounted for nearly another 130,000 sales as well. There are still 133,000 vehicles in the order books. 76% of those are for Range Rover Sport, or Defender. And they say that they will, here we go, focus on brand activation to maintain the order book, whatever the heck that is. I don't
know. God. God. My word.
Every time we try, every time they set this big bear trap.
What's interesting, actually, towards the end of this article that's linked in the show notes from Autocar, is the net debt figure. That's really encouraging.
Yeah, it really is. They anticipate that they're going to become net debt zero. It trimmed its actual amount of debt down from £3 billion the year before last to £0.7 billion. Still a lot of money. That's a heck of a paying off.
That's a massive drop.
So £0.7 billion last year. Good work.
Yep, well done. Okay, I am going to take us to an article that was in The Guardian, furthering the constant discussions that we've had on the show about insurance costs and how they are going up. The Guardian did an investigation into why are they going up, and some of the reasons are that it appears price gouging by those doing the repairing, or that there are middlemen involved in insurance claims who are sticking large extra amounts on top of the actually valid elements of an insurance claim.
Mm-hmm.
And this echoes my own personal experience, but there is in here that this talks about how minor scrapes have then inflated into major bills. I want to say for a start, though, I think, like last week's article, there is some misunderstanding by some car owners of some of the issues they've had to get fixed and what it involves, because there are pictures of areas that involve sensors that have been damaged, and they're going, oh, hang on, this should have just been a lick of paint or just to replace a bumper. And it's like, no, it's...
Well, the other thing is that sometimes people look at stuff and they look at it and go, well, and essentially, as far as they're concerned, the plastic has just bounced back.
Yeah.
And so it's just a lick of paint, without taking into account the fact that there might be broken clips, damaged bent metal, damaged impact protection, all sorts of stuff right behind that thin skin of plastic that's just bounced back. And these are exactly the same people who would then complain if they were later on in an accident that, oh my goodness, this has been crashed and it wasn't repaired properly.
Mm.
I do feel there's a certain amount of some people not understanding quite what goes into this and trying to have their cake and eat it. I mean, one of the illustrations here is of a Skoda Octavia. And when I look at it, I see that the wing has been squeezed in under the edge of the bonnet,
mm-hmm.
and it's bashed in at the bottom corner, meaning it doesn't line up with the headlamp, means it doesn't line up with the bumper, and the bumper is slightly out, and there is a small scuff on the bumper. So as far as I can tell, there's a whole load of work to realign stuff, possibly replace panels, and that there is obviously some structural stuff behind the otherwise intactish looking wing.
Mm.
But, it's just a lick of paint, mister.
No.
It isn't just a lick of paint at that point. There's quite a lot going on that little corner.
Yeah.
And all that's listed is he caused a crack on his Skoda's bumper.
Yeah.
And it's white as well. So white is really hard to match.
Mm. Yeah, these are more complicated. We're not giving the the insurance industry a free pass here, though, because towards the bottom it talks about hire car side of things. Because we're trying to be fair here. Some people just don't understand what goes into it and how complicated a car is and how integral so many parts are with each other, and they can affect each other, and that's where costs do come from. We are appreciative of legitimate costs. We are not saying all costs are not. But when we get towards the bottom, there is a bill for someone who had a car for 86 days, a car hire for 86 days, and the bill was for 26,000. Well, it came to 32,000 once you add VAT and everything else. And you sort of go, well,
86 days.
You got off lightly, because if mine had been 86 days, then mine was 4 weeks and 13 grand.
Yeah. And that was for something really classy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't even a like-for-like replacement of the vehicle, but there we are. That's the bit where I hope a regulator or somebody who has influence is looking at this and going, hang on, we need to investigate. There is some stuff here that is extracting far too much cash from the consumer, who are in a trapped market, who, to be legal on the road, has to pay, which all it does is encourage people to be illegal, who cannot afford it, who feel they need to drive around to get around to do their job, whatever it is, and are taking a risk, which then puts our premiums up even more, because, where does the money come to fix something if the other person is uninsured? Comes from you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This all needs to be investigated and stopped. It affects us all.
One last story before Guilt Minute. The government has started I forgot the word.
Consultation.
Thank you, that's the word. Consultation on how to future-proof classic cars, and it says back drivers. Sorry, I'm confused by the gov.arc website here, but it's essentially, it's inviting people to have their say on potential changes to registering historic classic rebuilt and electrically converted vehicles.
They're backing the driver. As in, we support drivers.
Oh, launched on how to future-proof classic cars and back drivers. Sorry.
Yes.
That's an appalling sentence, an appalling headline.
Because don't forget, this government is now all for the driver, and us poor drivers have only been picked on and exploited over these last few years. This is important.
It is.
Because as cars are being modified, particularly with adding EV powertrains, we've seen and heard many stories of people being refused the approvals because of the modifications they've had to make to bodywork, to the underpinnings of the vehicles, has just contravened the regulations and rules that are in place that were there from the 1980s, I think it is.
Yeah.
Technology has obviously significantly moved forward. So it's how can we keep historic cars on the road? How can we do it safely?
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got any opinion or experience or knowledge on this, please do click the links in the show notes. There is a link directly to the consultation. Make your voice heard. Tell them what needs to be done. Otherwise, we will get something that no one is happy with.
Yes. The same link's been circulating social media as well. That brings us to Guilt Minute, a quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel the Motoring Podcast worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show, whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all that, some producers thank you very much. Then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues. Thanks again for all of the recommendations for Android players, and also for all the nice things that you said whenever you submit.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm going to take us into not new car news, because there are no new cars this week. Nothing worthy of including. But this will be bits that go on new cars news, I think.
Right.
Crowbar that one in there. And let's start with a reminder that the EU's General Safety Regulations 2 comes into force on the 7th of July 2024. And the UK has chosen that it will mirror and follow exactly what was said by the EU in this regulation. And one of the things you do need to be aware that is coming in will be a mandatory speed limiter. How these work is incredibly frustrating and poor on the road. For starters, they claim they'll use GPS data and or traffic sign recognitions from the car's own cameras, which terrifies me, having driven cars where they don't recognize the speed limits.
Yeah, they're absolutely shocking. Stock up on your coloured duct tape now, everyone. White and black, and you can go whatever speed you want. That was a joke, and I was not inciting illegal behaviour, by the way. That was absolutely a joke.
My word, we're going to call this the legal episode.
Oh, no.
But what you have to be aware of, these systems, unlike the police on the road, go off precisely 1 mile an hour over what the car thinks the legal limit is where you are at that time.
Yeah, this is what the car thinks it is.
Yes, it's what the car thinks it is.
That's
it is not necessarily what it is. And they do react to what it thinks it is. There is no, it's not an old wives' tale, but the rumor is there is a certain percentage of leeway because all car speedos are set slightly differently and there is calibration issues. So the police sort of act when there are police, not speed cameras and stuff like this, but there is a bit of a leeway over that speed limit. That doesn't happen with the systems in the car.
It seems that it will be possible to override the system for the current, according to this Evo article, it will be possible to override the system for the current journey by pushing hard on the throttle. However, the system will re-engage every time the car is started. And if you think you can simply keep pressing a little harder to break through the system, the ETSC also states that if the driver continues to drive above the speed limit for several seconds, the system should sound a warning for a few seconds and display a visual warning until the vehicle is operating at or below the speed limit again. So when you're driving too fast, which they say is dangerous, they are then going to distract you with a noise and a warning message.
And it does distract you.
Because that makes sense. And it is distracting. I mean, you've heard me. I'm the topic of some cars I've tried, some pressers I've tried in the past, which are just shock you. And it is distracting and annoying. And sure, it might make you drive slower, but goodness me, you're going to hate every second of it. Even vehicles which are sitting, waiting, parked, which aren't sold yet and aren't registered yet. The way around this, of course, is going to be to pre-register a massive amount of stuff at dealers, are going to have it retrofitted before they can be sold. I mean, good luck, everyone.
The call goes out once again to any regulator or legislator who's listening to the show. Please get in touch. I will explain fully how bad so many of these systems are on our actual roads, and you might pause the rush for technology fixes all problems.
And will also be an open book to any explanations you might have about why it is the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to move us on to Bentley then, and the next bit that isn't actually a whole car?
Bad news, everyone. Bentley is getting rid of its W12 engine.
It's about 150 years old, though, isn't it?
It is, but this is what it feels like. The good news is that it's going to be replaced by a V8, and it will be a V8 plug-in hybrid system, which puts out 740 brake horsepower. So don't go moaning that you're missing out on stuff. And it will also come along with a 50-mile plug-in hybrid ability.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, they're promising 4 figures worth of torque. I don't think it's going to be a slouch and that you're really going to feel too hard done by. CO2 emissions, imagine on WLTP, less than 50 grams per kilometre.
Yeah, and I presume this is the same base engine as Lamborghini have been boasting about, because they also talk about a V8 plug-in hybrid, so it's going to be the same one.
I would imagine that it's the same powertrain, yes.
Yeah.
Another company doing similar?
Yeah, Land Rover. Now, they're doing a mild refresh to the Defender, which caught me by surprise, 4 years old. I thought he wasn't as old as that, but I mean, a lot has happened in the last 4 years, so it's, sometimes it's a century's worth and sometimes it's 20 minutes. But they are going to change their engine so that it now fits with the Euro 6e emission legislation. On top of that, they're going to tweak some and simplify some of the trim levels as well. There is going to be a D300 diesel engine that is going to be swapped for the D350, which is currently in the Range Rover, which increases outputs
by about 50.
Yes.
But that's not a joke. That's how they come to the numbers. So.
No, it is. It really is, yeah. There is also going to be a change on the petrol side of things, where they are going to use a supercharged 5-litre V8 version in there. And then there's going to be a plug-in hybrid, which is going to swap the P400e to a detuned P300e. That's not going to be the same as is in the Evoque and the Discovery Sport, which is a 3-pot, because this is going to be a 4-cylinder, apparently.
Yes.
Or whether that's the detail that just got missed out and mistaken, I don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then, most importantly, they're going to be putting the captain chairs pack for the...
Oh, this is not more important than the supercharged V8. I'm sorry.
For the 3-row Defender 130.
It was just kind of muttered in there, but he's giving you all the details of the diesel stuff. But he's going, there's a supercharged V8.
Well, it's not going to sell that much. The FEV's the one that's going to sell, isn't it?
We know
the FEV's the one that's going to sell. I think it's the best looking JLR product out there at the moment.
It is.
And it's one of the most popular, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that captain's chair pack is going to be kind of cool too, so I can see how that fit in. I'm seeing more of them. The 130 is the best looker of the decent looking set of SUVs.
See what happens, ladies and gentlemen, if you only see massively large vehicles, then you start to accept them.
Don't go there. I saw some Twitter exchanges yesterday that some people were on the receiving end of.
Okay, well, do you want to take us to Hyundai then? Well, Hyundai, sorry, then, before I bring back bad memories.
Hyundai are considering pay-to-use in-car features such as heated seats. We love these.
Mm.
And they're thinking about introducing some of these. My favourite one, obviously there's all the usual stuff like connected services and all sorts of things. But the best one of the lot is their Pro Pack. which it says is €9.99 a month, and it says gives advanced data-driven services such as in-car payments, including partner offers to connect drivers with their surroundings. That's right, they're planning on charging you €10 a month to receive adverts, everyone. That's how I understand that.
Yes, that seems like a wonderful deal. Yes, I look forward to more detail on that, which will hopefully show our initial interpretation stroke cynicism that suggests that what you're going to get is I don't like to hear including partner offers, but in-car payments, I don't want that in a car either, thank you very much.
But Andrew, this is part of a push from Hyundai to get closer to customers post-sale.
I know, that made me laugh. They're saying the quiet bits out loud now. But it is interesting because what they are declaring, because there's an interview in this Autocar article with Marcus Welds, who's the head of Hyundai Connected Mobility, is saying, for years we worried about how we were going to sell more cars. Today we worry about what if all we do is sell cars. The realization that exponential growth is not a thing is not reality, and certainly is not a reality in the car industry, and certainly is not a reality in the car industry as the economic downturn occurs. They've got to find other ways to make money. As this article highlights as well, BMW have tried this and they have got a serious amount of backlash, but they are still forging forward with it. And I just hate so much of it. I don't hate all of it, but I hate so much of it.
Line.
Yeah.
It's trying to move the creepy line, Andrew. That's what it is. If we just keep being coupled with it, we'll get used to it and we'll stop considering it creepy anymore.
Yeah, it is trying to wear us down and make us accept it because it's the norm. There will be an extra link in the show notes to a piece from Drew Smith, who is one part of the Looking Out podcast, where he talks about the car industry and subscriptions and the mistakes they are making or could potentially make, which I do recommend that you read.
Do you want to quickly take us to Volkswagen, which is playing performance badge soup?
Yes. For some reason, Volkswagen have decided that the EV's GTX branding, which is their sportier EVs, is now going to change in the future to GTI and R models. I don't know. I thought Volkswagen probably had enough on their plate dealing with problems and issues and things to worry about this. I mean, I don't know why they had it in the first place, and then to change it so quickly afterwards, it just, oh my word. Are you thinking these through, lads?
We're going to introduce a new, nobody's got any recognition of it because we've only launched a couple of things. Right, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Put it back to the ones that everybody recognises. The big question here, though, is whether or not it will get a red-coloured Volkswagen badge for the GTI-ness or a white or blue-coloured Volkswagen badge for the EV-ness, though.
It's going to be blue because of the EV-ness. Because it'll have to be blue, but they'll do it in a slightly different way to show that it's the fast EV as opposed to a fast internal combustion stroke hybrid.
Yeah, don't go there.
That will be a mix all the way through of red and blue. Anyway, now that we have remembered the order of points of interest, do you want to take us to the lunchtime read this week?
I don't know how that happened last week. Last week we talked about the Ferrari 12-cylinder, and we were a bit meh on it generally. Well, so a little bit enthusiastic. We were a bit meh.
It's just a bit whatevs.
Someone who isn't a bit meh on it is Matteo Licata, and he's written a piece for Hagerty, which makes an excellent lunchtime read because he's Matteo, and also because he points out where things have come from, what it is, how successful, why this is so good, and all of these kind of things. But it's really good. Enjoy reading Matteo's article if you can. Mentally read it back in his accent, because that just makes everything better.
Yes, it does. It does. Right, I'm going to take us to the list of the week, and this is that Top Gear are doing something called the Tunnel Run, or have done the Tunnel Run. And this is where they've picked 7 cars to run through the Catesby Estates Tunnel. And it goes for nearly 1 mile or so, just over. And it was to find out which car sounded the most impressive running through this with the Stig at the wheel. And what they have done is like I said, they've picked these 7 vehicles. And Alan, without running through each one, because these are a wide mix of cars here, a really wide mix of cars. Is there one in here that looking at the tunnel top trumps cars that Top Gear have selected, that you would want to listen to more than any of the others?
Probably the Mercedes S600.
Okay,
The
interesting.
most attainable. Yeah, well, it's a V12 engine that ended up with Bugani's Honda, and if you've got the right exhaust on it, then it can sound like something quite impressive, amazing. This one here has been tweaked. I think it belongs to the photographer chap. That's near I was. In fact, it's incredibly cool. So there we go.
Yeah.
You see this whole thing, there's a lot of thing there about the volume and things, and for me it's more about the actual tone rather than just the sheer amount of noise.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's very important. It's not necessarily a loud scream that's impressive. It's more the feelings, I think, that will come through as well. I bet it would be amazing to be there to actually get to feel that sound as well, because it's a tunnel. It's going to bounce right back at you.
Yes.
I like that. I like what they did there. I mean, it's typically Top Gear silliness and has no bearing on anything in reality, but wonderful.
But you were saying there's a video series of that as well.
They've released 2 of the cars so far on the Top Gear YouTube channel, so you could check them out there.
I'll keep an eye out on that, and then, because it's a bit hard to judge just from a list. I'm trying to imagine. I mean, the BRM V16 must be amazing as well.
Well, it being open cockpit will be a totally different experience.
Yes.
Anyway, do you want to take us to the and finally?
Renault Safran, everyone. So this is from, and I will get this right this time, this is from Keith W.R. Jones. I will get the right Keith, and his the Joy of Specs site. And he is remembering the very first Renault Safran, and it is not the one we're all thinking of.
No, I was very surprised by this.
From the early 90s. It was a limited edition, because Safran is French for saffron, as in the yellowy orange colour. And it was a limited edition Renault 14 that was in a yellowy orange colour with extra stripes and all sorts of stuff.
Looks like rust on the picture, to be fair.
Yes. Maybe not the best choice of description. A nice sports steering, all sorts of stuff. So have a wee read about that. Very first Renault Safran was actually a Renault 14 Safran. And it's got some great kit in it, but have a look at the article. Click through the show notes, have a look at the article, and have a read of that, because it is pretty cool.
And I love the advert explaining what a limited edition means.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think some companies might have forgotten that, to be honest. It's a limited edition model, right? How many are you going to make? As many as we need to. Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of this week's show.
Yep.
Let's round up in the usual way by reminding you that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts of the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is either search for Crack Windscreen on Twitter or Mastodon, or search for me on LinkedIn. And Alan, if people would like to get in touch with you personally, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can do it on Twitter and Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLY. I say we'll be back soon, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.